Is there any character more iconic than... If you ask 10 people to name any superhero, 8 out of 10 times the answer you will get is Superman. The 9th person will name Batman, and the 10th guy is just an elitist asshole. What I'm getting at is that Superman is not just an archetypical superhero, but he is the archetype, the first and the oldest superhero. The Justice League episode for the man who has everything. Superman is placed in a dreamlike state by an alien plant that shows him the objects of his desire. And we learn that the one thing Superman wants the most is a simple life, a wife, a kid, a simple home on a farm. Notice that his dreams are not fancy. He does not dream of power or control. And I find myself asking, who is Superman? According to Jerry Siegel, the idea of a strong man like Hercules and Samson came to him on one sleepless night in 1932. He would share this idea with his friend Joe Shuster. Did you know that Jerry Siegel was the model for Superman, and his wife Joanne would be the model for Lois Lane? And Joe Shuster would be responsible for Superman's iconic look. It's important to note that Superman's universal goodness was established in Action Comics #1, his very first appearance. Stop me if you've heard this before. Superman is uninteresting as a character because he has no weaknesses. Another criticism is Superman is overpowered, and I'm told there's no way you can make an overpowered character interesting. One Punch Man. Personally, I believe that the biggest reason people find Superman boring and uninteresting is that he's written as a Christ-like figure, a Jesus stand-in. If you ask any religious zealot, if you ask any religious person, the idea of Superman being Jesus or a Christ-like stand-in is utter nonsense to most religious people, and his story is more like with a generous sprinkling of Samson. For the non-believers among you, apply the Spider-Man rule to this situation.
What the hell is even that?
For the sake of the class, pay attention because man's gonna explain it to you. Spider-Man is Peter Parker. Miles Morales is just Miles Morales. Let's apply this to Superman. Jesus Christ is the Son of God. Superman is just a Superman. Yep, apply this rule to everything in your life and see if it doesn't make it better. For example, the Statue of Liberty is an iconic symbol of New York City. The one in Las Vegas is just the one in Las Vegas. The Eiffel Tower is an iconic symbol of Paris. The one in Las Vegas is just the one in Las Vegas.
Is that like a personal attack or something? Or...
Let's circle back to the man who has everything. At some point in the episode, Batman gets through to Superman. And when it dawns on him that he is needed as Superman, you might see other superheroes reject the dream and go back to their reality. But Superman takes the time to explain to this illusion, a child, why he cannot exist anymore. He shows a great amount of compassion to an illusion. And this moment gets at the core of Superman's character, that everyone deserves kindness no matter who or what they are. Superman will treat them with compassion. My point is that Superman grapples with the weight of responsibility, that one day he might not be enough to make the world a better place.
Sorry to drop in on you like this, Miss Lane, but I've been thinking, there must be a lot of questions about me that people in the world would like to know the answers.
Of course.
Superman was created in the mid-1930s during the rise of the Nazi Party. This got me thinking that Superman is a subversion of Friedrich Nietzsche's Ubermensch, the idea that might makes right. Nietzsche believed that the Ubermensch or Superman would be willing to kill for the greater good. Basically, the Ubermensch would be able to create his own values and morals that would differ from society. And the Nazi Party would take Nietzsche's philosophy and twist it into the Aryan race. Think about it. If Superman is a subversion of the Ubermensch, then Lex Luthor represents the Ubermensch in the Superman mythos. Lex believes in might makes right. He is willing to do anything to gain control and power, and he rejects the so-called greater good. In fact, he sees Superman's optimism and kindness as weaknesses to exploit. To him, there is no greater good. If we dig a little deeper, it means that Superman is an embodiment of Immanuel Kant's
Language.
He believed that morality was unconditional in all circumstances, that morality was not dependent on our desires, wants, needs, or goals. Basically, Immanuel Kant saw morality as a measurable constant. If 1 + 1 = 2, then it must be the same for all of us. If one person is given the power to kill for the greater good, then that power must be extended to all of us. And to Nietzsche, this was the stupidest idea he's ever heard, and that's why he probably hated the Kant. I mean, Immanuel.
Got you. 2 seconds. I up.
Oh my god!
Speaking as someone who has tortured Speaking as someone who has studied people for a living, I know from experience that your strengths can be weaponized against you. His super hearing, for example, can be used against him. If Superman can hear everything and everyone, at any given time, somewhere in the world, someone requires Superman's help. And you can have someone like Lex compound the issue by using ultrasonic devices to torture Superman. And Lex could use his money to fund all types of wars, including gang wars, in order to stretch Superman thin. Another weakness is Superman's speed. Here's a clip of the Concorde breaking the sound barrier. Lex Luthor would take advantage of the noise complaint to turn the public against Superman. Another ability we could exploit is Superman's strength. He is so strong that to him, the whole world is made out of cardboard and everyone around him is made out of glass. What I'm getting at is that Superman is overpowered, and that is his weakness.
I'm sorry that you two already started.
The other problem I think that they have with Superman is that I don't think that people portray Superman in the right way. I think that the two best adjacent versions of Superman are it's too OP. Well, it's not that it's too OP. I think one example, of course, is like Tommen in Game of Thrones. Tommen is a very good boy. He's a nice guy. And bad things happen because he's unwilling to be an asshole.
If Superman flew at the speed of light, and it's canon that he weighs 222 pounds, he would literally ignite the Earth's atmosphere and create a wind so strong that it would blow away half of the Earth's atmosphere. Essentially, he would kill everyone on Earth. What happens to a man who's never considered his own mortality when he's faced with death? Because Superman is essentially invincible. And what happens to his mind? Does he break? Does he panic? Does he turn against his own beliefs when faced with his own death?
Because it's the most basic thing you can do with superheroes, is do the dark version. Make them zombies.
So we've touched on the Superman is a subversion of the might makes right trope. Let's postulate that this is true. Then, by extension, Superman is also a subversion of the absolute power corrupts absolutely trope. And in my opinion, it is impossible to write a subversion of Superman, because if you do, you'd be playing the trope straight. It's important to understand that Superman, or Clark Kent, does not see himself as a super being or a god among men.
You always get to be the bad cop. I thought maybe this time I could be the bad cop. All right, Deadshot. We need a name, and we want it right now. Oh, whoops. A little too hard. Sorry, Batman.
Think of it like this. Most of us have a work persona. You know, the professional self. And around friends and family, we have the true self. And perhaps for Clark Kent, Superman is his telephone voice or the customer service persona. Look at Alan Moore's Watchmen. Watchmen is a story of the Justice League without Superman. Every character in Watchmen has a parallel apart from Superman. Some people think Dr. Manhattan is Superman's parallel, but that's incorrect. Dr. Manhattan's parallel is Captain Atom. And the timeline of Watchmen shows us a Justice League without a guiding hand. I'm sure we're familiar with the term "Who Watches the Watchmen?" In my read, the answer is Superman. Superman serves as the moral core of the Justice League, a compass for the other superheroes. And isn't it funny that the one character who acts selflessly in Watchmen is Bernard, the newspaper salesman. My point is that Superman is the most brightest, the most hopeful, a symbol of hope in the DC universe. He is the very reason dark superheroes like Batman work so well. He serves as a contrast to those characters. This is why the New 52 Superman does not work for me, because he's too cynical, a try-hard. He's just the Punisher in a Superman t-shirt.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that? What is that?
The issue I have with evil Supermans or edgy Supermans is that Superman is a moral ceiling. He is the most hopeful and kind superhero. When creators remove those aspects from Superman, one runs the risk of turning the entire universe into a dark, fatalistic universe. And that's what happened to the Snyderverse. Because Superman was the most grim, the most fatalistic version of Superman, then the whole universe felt grim and fatalistic with no hope.
Think, Mark!
Am I saying that people should not write a grim and edgy Superman? No. My point is that creators who do so should understand what makes Superman work. For example, let's look at Invincible. Mark is essentially the Superman of this universe, and the whole story is built on what if Superman had an evil dad. The story of Invincible works for me because Omni-Man is a deconstruction of the Superman archetype, and Mark is a reconstruction of the Superman archetype. Essentially, Omni-Man is the Injustice Superman, and Mark is a modernized version of Christopher Reeve's Superman. And the story postulates what if Superman actually existed in real life. And my read of this story is that the creators believe that Superman is not his power set, but it's his personality. For example, Mark gets his ass kicked all the time, but he never quits, he never gives up, and he does the right thing no matter what.
You were more than a hero. I idolized you. I wanted to be you. Whenever I was out there facing down the bad guys, I'd think, what would Superman do? Now I know.
Superman's story resonates with a lot of people. Just take a look at how many characters were inspired by Superman. I did some digging and I found about 192 characters from across different works, universes that were all inspired by Superman. In fact, he has spawned a trope, the Superman of this universe, from Omni-Man and Homelander to Supreme and One Punch Man. Perhaps I will elaborate further some other time, but for now, I'd like to thank you for watching.
I mean, why are you here? There must be a reason for you to be here.
Yes, I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
You're gonna end up fighting every elected official in this country.